if you're ticking all of the boxes and you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to question the method. When I train people, I tell them, listen, I'm not going to be with you forever, but I'm going to give you and instill you the education so you can learn how to train yourself. The best thing for the average person who's never done anything, any form of physical activity, is just to start doing something. You know, there's no point just sitting down on the sofa saying, I wish I can do this. You have to realize that you have to have a balance between, you know, reality versus your expectation.
Yeah.
You know, your life has to be conducive to the results that you want.
How do you make the average person look and feel good? I think I know what I'm doing in the gym. I think I know what works for me, especially with like what I do outside of the gym. I know how my body kind of works in terms of like food, but when you go into a gym environment, you'll hear someone who's cutting who's on 3,000 calories.
Yeah.
Then you'll hear someone who's on like 1,200 calories. For the average person that watches, we want to get into good shape.
Yeah.
We want to look good. We want to feel good.
You know, if you're an extremely busy person, you have a family, other commitments, then, you know, you're going to have to adapt it in order to meet all the different elements to solve everything. You have to have the right balance. You have to have reality versus expectation. You need to have a certain level of activity. We look at it now, we've become such sedentary beings where, for the most part, all we do is sit down. We are not standing, we are not active, we are doing long shifts in the office, etc. And that is where the first problem is. So you want to get up and you want to move. And then you want to also get into the gym and you want to do some strength work. And you need to do that minimum 2 to 3 sessions per week. You know?
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Unfiltered podcast, where we take the eye out of unfiltered and put the emphasis directly on you. This is the one platform where we get to take down our filters and have raw, authentic and vulnerable conversations in regards to the challenges that we're all facing today. Now, if you're a fan of the unfiltered nature of this podcast and you want more of these conversations that I have on the show to be normalized, why don't you help me help you? To get more guests on and to have those difficult conversations in regards to the challenges we're all facing, I have to know what it is that you specifically want us to speak about. So if it isn't too much to ask, why don't you hit that subscribe button right now? And at the end of the episode, if it's been a hit for you, why don't you leave a thumbs up and leave a cheeky review in regards to what specifically resonates with you. Now, with that all being said and done, let's get straight back into the episode. Anthony, how's it going?
It's going very, very well. How's things?
Not bad. Give us a little background around your story, man. Like, I don't want to give the audience my intake in regards to how I know you.
Yeah.
Share a little bit of background, man. We're going to have so good fun today.
Came through not the conventional fitness, health and wellness route. I picked up my degree in engineering. Being from an African family, education is primary. But it turned out it wasn't really my calling. So I think we're in a stage of where there's so many different avenues for self-discovery. And that's how I fell in love with the fitness industry and helping individuals. So that's what I do today.
So I tried to do a background search on you, and the first thing I saw was your body.
The bodybuilding competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a flash in the pan kind of thing. Like I did 2 bodybuilding competitions, as most people do when they first start getting into fitness, health and wellness. They think that
I don't.
There's this kind of like a phase of where most people train. When you look at people and how they actually train and their styles of training, which has changed since then, but most people tend to do bodybuilding style bro split kind of workouts. As we spoke about one of your recent programs, it's very much tailored to the bodybuilder kind of regime.
Yeah.
So I went down the course of that, that route, and you learn a lot. You learn the good things and the bad things. You learn that, that without steroids, which I don't do, it's a very non-competitive kind of avenue to try and chase because, the margins are huge. And then obviously you learn that it's not actually very healthy. And for me, I have a more holistic approach to my routine in terms of what I do today.
Yeah, fair. So everything's natty.
100%, yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's
we can do the test. Run the test.
This guy is wow. And you train, I think, stupidly hard when I see you train in the gym.
Yeah.
So for context right now, you worked in engineering.
Yeah.
And you've now transitioned out to working with clients as their coach / trainer.
Yeah, so coach / trainer, yeah.
And then you've also got the consulting kind of side of things in terms of
home office space, gym equipment, etc. Yeah.
Sick. And like the type of clients that you work with right now.
So it varies. very much, I've got a different range. So my online clients gives me a bit more scope in terms of who I'm able to reach, both in the UK and obviously internationally. And then at the moment, I'm dealing with, I've got a little setup where I'm at where I work with corporate-based kind of clients, people who are, not necessarily don't have the time to discover, a training regime, and they want it kind of tailor-made for them. So I kind of focus on delivering that for them.
Fine. I think that's probably a bigger win in
Yeah.
itself, because everyone's got their own shit they're doing on a 9 to 5 basis, and everyone just wants that quick result, right? We want the answers very quickly.
Very
We want to be
quickly.
looking good very quickly for summer, etc. And
Too quick.
and sometimes it's not really stable if you've got like high pressure jobs, or if you're working stupid hours, you're not focusing on your sleep, your recovery, and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
And so it plays a big part there. And I've had a bunch of coaches come on here within the fitness space, and they give their own gems. And it's funny, like everyone's got a point to make around how what you see on the internet is a bunch of nonsense at times.
Well, you know what? It's well, the thing is, that's the whole thing about the whole industry. Like, everybody wants their 2 cents in there because they realize that there's such a huge opportunity to make money from
Yeah.
the industry. So, you saturate it and nobody really knows in which direction that they're actually looking. So they end up doing either too much of the right thing, which can still be a bad thing, or all of the wrong things. So you kind of need, if you don't really know where to go, you need someone, who's going to focus on you specifically initially to give you the guidance that you need to structure, because it's more than just, go in the gym, pick up weights and leave.
That's what I used to do, right? For years, I tell people, like, I started gym when I was like 16, and I would train, and my form and technique was terrible.
As we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was terrible, the form, like bench pressing, thinking like just doing that was a bench, and then at uni carry that with me like an idiot. Only when I started like looking at things a little bit differently, hiring a coach, and then them saying, bro, you're doing it all wrong.
Then they give you that kind of frame.
Yeah.
It's like if you were to, to go into a bank and they said to you, okay, you just do the mortgage application by yourself, and you had no intuition in terms of that sense, then you wouldn't really know where to start.
Exactly.
You have to have the foundation laid to know that you're going on the right path. Otherwise, you go round full circle, and you don't really necessarily, end up getting to where you want to get to. So we, as trainers, for the most part, well, I hope for the most of us, but as trainers, we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that. My whole thing in terms of the way that I train people is almost, I'm cutting out all the mistakes I made in my journey, and I've kind of refined a program that works for not just someone who trains as hard as you've seen me train, but someone who's just an average person who wants to be healthy and fit and look good.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about that then. How do you make the average person look and feel good without giving away too much? Because we want people to obviously work with you privately.
Yeah.
But respectfully, how do you do that? Because the reason why I'm saying that, I have followed a bunch of plans. I think I know what I'm doing in the gym. I think I know what works for me, especially with like what I do outside of the gym. I know how my body kind of works in terms of like food. But when you go into a gym environment, you'll hear someone who's cutting and is on 3,000 calories.
Yeah.
Then you'll hear someone who's on like 1,200 calories. And then you'll see someone doing a shit number of like cardio sessions compared to someone who's doing just pure squats, bench, deadlifts, very compound exercises. We won't even get, we will get into exactly like you do. But respectfully, I feel like for the average person that watches, we want to get into good shape.
Yeah.
We want to look good. We want to feel good. Respectfully, I think genetics and everything else
They all play a
behind the
part,
scenes, they all play
for
a
sure.
part. So how does it work with you?
In general, so one thing, you covered a whole range of things there. And what I tend to tell people is there's really no right or wrong answer in any of the different aspects that you mentioned. But the key is balance. Number one, you have to realize that you have to have a balance between, reality versus your expectation.
Yeah.
Your life has to be conducive to the results that you want. If you're an extremely busy person, you have a family, other commitments, etc., whatnot, then, you're going to have to adapt it in order to meet all the different elements. For instance, some mothers end up, that where their nutrition kind of goes wrong is that they end up eating the food that their kids eat, which is necessarily a big issue. Other people, they just have a very, stressful work environment where, sometimes, they're particularly busy where they feel they need to have a drink to close deals, etc. They're forced into environments where it's very difficult for them to carry their meal prep box, which trainers typically advise them to
Yeah.
do. That meal prep is the solution to solve everything. You have to have the right balance. You have to have reality versus expectation. You can get in good shape. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on a billboard somewhere, but
Yeah.
it still is, by definition, you are good shape. People are receptive and they can see the results of your hard work. And number one, on top of that, you are healthy. So the first place you would start is having a balance of things. You need to have a certain level of activity. We look at it now, we've become such sedentary beings where for the most part, all we do is sit down.
Yeah.
We sit down.
Yeah.
For the most part, we are not standing. We are not active. We are doing long shifts in the office, etc. And that is where the first problem is. So you want to get up and you want to move, and then you want to also get into the gym and you want to do some strength work, and you need to do that minimum 2 to 3 sessions per week. And that's just the bare minimum. And then from that point onwards, you can then, introduce things like, recreation, like you play golf. For me, I think the ability to have somebody that's actually going out and playing golf and walking around a golf field, etc., that means that you're getting your steps in, which is also a very huge part. It's not just what you do in the gym,
Yeah.
it's how you live your lifestyle out and getting activity, fresh air, sunlight, vitamin D, etc. Then we can talk about the nutrition and the training and the type of training styles that you're doing.
Fine. Fair. Because again, like I mentioned, I think everyone has this impatient mindset where we want results ASAP. I moan to you all the time when I see you in the gym, like how the plan is working very slowly. Like I'm down at the moment since Jan 5 kilos, which is great.
Which is good, yeah.
But if you ask me what it was like during COVID,
Yeah.
the weight just
dropped off
stupidly. But maybe because I didn't have anything else to do,
had all
and I
the
was
time
just
in the world.
focusing just purely on steps, workout, and that was that.
Yeah.
Now there's other things going on in life, other places you want to go out to eat. Like after golf, my first thought process is, right, fine, I haven't eaten the whole day. I need to eat something. I'm gonna just get a takeaway.
Yeah.
And it's then being mindful with what that then relays into your results. Like if you're gonna eat shit food, if you're gonna have chips and chicken, fine, it's protein and carbs.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah.
roast potatoes with grilled chicken with
of
veg.
course, yeah.
There's a big difference.
There's a big difference. So you know what? It's you have to realize that you want results fast, but you have to be realistic with the length of time that it's actually going to get to the results that you want and see in your mind. And are those results that you see for yourself the results that you see in other people around you who have a different lifestyle and a different setup, and therefore your expectation for what you want is even greater, and you think, why can't I have that? Because we always want the shiny
we do.
thing over there, but do we actually look at that person and say, what do they actually do to get to where they're at? And that's why I say, we all have different starting points. We all have different levels.
Yeah.
And we need to be realistic with where we're at. And then for you, for instance, it's, yes, you can have that, the chicken and chips. But then what happens is you need to give yourself more leeway to know that the time frame for you to get there is going to be a little bit further, but you're still going to get there. But you just need to be consistent.
So this is like what you said there is, I kind of think, very bang on, but it's still a challenge for most people to get through. If you tell me right now, all right, Pri, this is what I need you to focus on food wise for like the whole week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, knock it out, and I'm consistent and I don't see the result I want to see, I'm going to get pissed off.
Yeah.
And then it's still doing that for another 3, because you've done 3 now, you need to do another 3 more to see you will see that result. Or if you get injured or something else happens, you've got to then reset. And I feel like that becomes a major problem for people within the fitness space in regards to getting into the best shape they want to get into.
Well, when you're dealing with a trainer or a company that's putting together something for you, there's a transaction, and that transaction, the results, they must come.
Yeah.
But there's different layers. For instance, you got to look at obviously your genetics. You've got to look at your training history and what are the necessary adaptations. If you're ticking all of the boxes and you're not getting the results that you want, then you need to question the method. Not one size doesn't fit all. So some people have this blueprint, this blueprint of this will get you there. Obviously, we spoke about the whole bodybuilder style results. It does work for some, but some people it just doesn't. Their body doesn't respond to it.
Yeah.
You know, there's other factors. Obviously, like for instance, your testosterone levels, your natural testosterone baseline. Because obviously, in order to to get the results, you do need to put on some lean mass. You need to develop muscles. I'm not talking about huge bulky muscles, but the quality of your muscle should improve, and obviously your metabolism should also increase in order to drop that body fat down. So there's a different starting point, and if you're after, I would usually give people 12 weeks. 3 months is a good time frame to see significant change. But then what the other issue is with these rapid transitions is if you are able to shift that weight in such a quick period of time, is it sustainable? And that's where most of those bodybuilder style kind of regiments don't necessarily really last.
Could you yo-yo out?
Yeah, and then you blow up probably even more, and then it's
this was me. I had my first cut I ever did officially back in 2021. I lost, I think I went down from like 82 to like say 66. It's a massive drop.
Huge jump.
I look skinny as fuck, but the fact that I had like abs like just there without doing anything felt amazing. But I looked ill, right? So when I look back at those photos, I was like, I kind of want to get into that look, but still be muscular. And so like I knew how to train. My coach showed me the ropes, and I was like, look, I think our time is done now. Thank you. I'm going to carry on doing what I'm doing 3-4 times a week, sometimes maybe more, compensate for your recovery, etc. And then when I went traveling and I came back, I realized that I just wanted to like try and bulk for a change. I wanted to put on some size. So I was eating what I liked. Went up to 85.
Okay.
But now the weight wouldn't start dropping if I started a cut.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. 1800 calories. That'll work. Nope.
Yeah.
Someone's like, eat some more. I was like, all right, fine. Nope. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on right now? And I feel like I still look okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like as it's been 3-4 years later, the body ain't doing what it used to do once upon.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, how do I get those results, and how strict does it need to be? Because if it's, and don't get me wrong, I get miserable at this kind of shit. Like if I have to follow the plan and I'm bored at what I'm eating, I will spiral out.
Yeah.
And this is where I feel within the fitness space. One of my friends who came onto the podcast, he talked about how he's got a psychologist as part of his team.
Which is massively important.
Because you tap into the emotional kind of side of things. That's the reason why you've gotten that chocolate.
100%. Yeah. And that's a huge point, in terms of the psychology. We do have to really reprogram people. And that's kind of what I focus on, because it's one thing, but you have to do it in the right way, in a sensitive way, because for many different reasons, obviously biologically men and women are different, hormones affect women in a different way, and it's even more of a strain on them in terms of, shifting body fat, etc. So, having the psychological reprogramming to find balance, because some people just can't, grasp the fact that they need to manage portion control. They might hear it, but actually to execute it. And when they go away in their own confines, because the trainer doesn't live with them, he's not in a tent in their house or in their garden and looking through the window, there's only so much you can do. And having that discipline and instilling that is a longer process. So that's also another thing that can kind of impact, how fast your results come, because it's very difficult. There's so many different things, the ghrelin, the responses, your body will work against you to fight you to have that extra box or packet of biscuits, even though it's not there. So, and not everybody can do out of sight, out of mind. And like I said, some people have families, so you're not going to just walk past the biscuits while your kids are with you. You're going to have to, find some kind of compromise. And that's where, when I say reprogram, it's more like re-education. I try to give as much information to my clients in terms of not just the physical benefits of that, but also the health benefits. Because, some people come to me and, they're on the verge of type 2 diabetes, etc. Some people have, gout. There's so many different other things, triggers where people have to actually take responsibility and accountability for their health, not for just themselves, but also for the people around them. So that's another factor.
I like what you said, because like for me, I love crisps. Right? I can get through, like, if you get me a 24 pack of Walkers, I'll probably throw out the prawn cocktail, but I'll get through that. Light work. I know what's in a packet of crisps, 132 calories. This year I've had one packet.
The fact that you even know that says it.
I know. I'm educated enough to know, like, one packet of crisps is equivalent to 4 rice cakes and plain rice cakes. If I add something to it, okay, cool, it's a little bit more, but that's 2 packets of crisps equals something which is going to fill me up a bit more. I'll roll with that instead. It's more nutritionally based, better for me and my diet. Fine. I've had 1 packet this year.
Yeah.
And like that's a massive achievement for me. Not intentionally have I chose to ignore it. I just know it's not part of the plan. So just I feel how do you well, let me rephrase this question. What do you think is the right investment people should put into getting into the best shape?
Enjoying the process.
But in terms of like monetary investment.
Well, you know what? I think if I like put it this way, you know, if people evaluated where their money is spent, they would realize that they invest more money in doing more harm than good to themselves. And people actually, you know, still even now kind of like, and I don't blame them because obviously there's a lot of, you know, shitfluencers, you know, fitness.
We'll get into the shit influencers soon.
But there's you know, but it just kind of downplays, you know, because the thing is, I see this and it's very easy to become a trainer nowadays. And I think that's what's really downplayed in the industry is there's a lot of people there who just kind of jump in and think it's an easy money, quick get rich scheme, etc. All you have to do, some people just walk in and they just look the part, but they don't actually have the knowledge, the experience to actually really help people and transform their lives. It's not just about, you know, destroying them in the gym and then that's qualifies as them being healthy. It really takes someone to know that, you know, it's as important as a doctor, because, you know, I've had doctors who they have, you know, as clients, they have all the knowledge, but they don't have the application, and therefore they're finding themselves just as bad as the patients that they're treating. 100%. So when you talk about investing, you're investing in your life. So if you could then say in the next, you know, 10, 15 years, you could avert some kind of like health concerns that can cause you to spend money and potentially save your life, how much would you spend, you know?
But that's what I'm asking you. Like, what do you think is a fair amount? Like, I don't want you to like quote your prices. I'm talking about the average person right now. If I look at, let's say, if I put 5 people out on the street, do you train? One person watches YouTube videos. The other person has got a free app where they've got a plan on there. Someone has a PT session once a week. Someone's got an online coach, which is just purely virtual. And the other person does maybe boxing 2-3 times a week. And they've got, like, what do you think is the right amount you should invest monetary wise on just on the training side of things? Because the nutrition part of it is completely different.
I think, you know, you're looking at just for the training element, you're looking at like 300 quid a month.
Fine.
Just set that aside as your investment into, you know, forms of physical activity that's gonna, you know, be your fun for your health. You know, some people can go out and spend 300 quid on a night on just drinks. So, but then but the moment you raise that kind of figure for them for training or personal training, etc., eyebrows will be raised. But it's a good long-term investment.
It's not affordable after that.
It's not affordable. It's not
like,
affordable.
Well, if you break it down, if you're able to in 1 year spend £300 a month, which works out to be like 3,600 across the year, on you being in the best shape possible, in a healthier state to then attend to everything else. You've focused in on your sleep, your recovery. You've got your meals in place. You can eat what you like, but at the same time still look and feel good.
It changes everything.
Now, what's £3,600 on the grand scale of things now? Now, for some people, it's a lot of money. For other people, it's a drop in the ocean. I know people who, I put this poll up yesterday. I said, if you could spend £2,000 right now on a 2-week all-inclusive holiday, work with a PT for like 4 months, or work on investing in yourself and improving relationships at home, what would you do? Majority of the stuff was holiday.
Yeah, of course. And
I'm like,
it doesn't help that the sun's never shining, but but no, I get it, and it's just one of those things where it's not frowned upon. Sometimes people go in with an approach where they think that it's just that easy that they can do it by themselves.
No, but it is. You don't need help.
No.
But you obtain it.
Exactly.
Just to, like you said, get that push.
To get
your
that push.
Doctors know what to do.
That guidance, you don't waste time, and also you do certain things safely. Don't get me wrong, some people have a knack for it. Some people can just pick it up. But then there's just some people that actually really need it. And, you know, there is someone out there who just needs it, that right guidance, and just the confidence. Some people go into a gym, right, and they've done they've invested maybe say like 100 and what's the average price of like a third space or whatever?
300
It's
quid
like
a month.
300 quid a month. So they're paying 300 quid a month. They've probably been a member of the gym for like 2 years. Yeah. But they've never had a trainer, and they're just on the recumbent bike because they don't have the confidence to explore other areas
Yeah.
of the gym, to even sniff the leg press or whatever. So, that person, that trainer, that experience could give them the confidence to change their lives. When I train people, I tell them, listen, I'm not going to be here forever. I'm not going to be with you forever, but I'm going to give you and instill you the education so you can learn how to train yourself.
Yeah.
And that's given many of my clients confidence to now, just embrace every aspect of the gym because it is for everybody.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I feel like I don't proclaim myself to be a PT or anything, and I let all my clients know. But when they want to work towards health related goals, I kind of know the basics in regards to like what it is that you could be doing. Do you know how to train? Yeah. Do you go to the gym? Yeah. How often are you going? All right, cool. Tell me how intense your workouts are.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, you break it down for me.
Yeah.
Because if it's that intense, are we not seeing a difference in the scale? Talk to me about your food. Are you eating the right foods? Are you even tracking?
You're educated in that, and it's a chain reaction. You're helping other people.
I've helped someone lose 15
100%.
kilos.
There you go.
And I was like, she was so thankful. And I was like, didn't do anything. It was just all you.
Yeah.
You applied yourself. I just held you accountable. And I said, well, is it time we change this up a little bit? Should we do a little bit more? Be honest with me right now.
Yeah.
Let's train together. Let's see what it looks like.
Exactly.
And then it's like, maybe you're not. Okay. But no, I get it. I appreciate it. I think people should invest a lot more into it if they really want it.
Yeah.
I can appreciate how sometimes it can be deemed as expensive, but there are so many other forms and alternatives to still have that accountability, whether it's a class.
For sure. Yeah.
Go to classes.
Do something, like I'm an advocate for activity.
Yeah.
Join a class, join a gym. I'm heavily into combat sports, which is another thing.
Yeah.
Do some form of training, physical activity, go for a walk, cycle on a bike. There are things that you can do obviously at home as well. Does take a bit more discipline, but the best thing for the average person who's never done any form of physical activity is just to start doing something. There's no point in just sitting down on the sofa saying, I wish I can do this. Like, I had a friend of mine who asked me, what's the difference between Slim Fast and whey protein? First, you need to, before you even start thinking about that, you need to start increasing your activity.
Yeah. Like, Mum, if you're listening, this one's for you. I tell her all the time, right? I said, you're not even beginning to try.
Yeah.
Right? Don't complain about no one understands your body, this, that, and the other. Fucking do something first.
My mom's the same. She'll tell me that she just doesn't have the time. So what I tell her is that, see that chair there? Okay, I need 100 squats. She said, what do you mean 100? How can I do 100? Break it down into 20s.
Yeah.
And then she started doing them and just strengthening the legs. And these are the things, obviously, as when you get later on in life, particularly your leg muscles are going to increase longevity in your life.
100%.
But, it's things that we don't realize and we take for granted until it's too late.
You got down here, you sent me your training recommendations for the average person that wants to be in shape and healthy. So you said a minimum 2 to 3 strength sessions per week.
Yeah.
And an average of 10 to 15K steps?
Yeah. I say every 5, I say 5 out of 7 days a week, 5 days average in those steps.
So like
near enough.
So across the week, 70,000 steps?
Yeah.
On total around that? Okay, fair. Sometimes people say like 10K steps is a myth. And like the training plan, like should you be doing upper, lower, push, pull, cardio, this, that, and the other? And you're basically saying right now, I think you mentioned earlier, you said like you'd recommend full body training.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a massive, and this is from someone who's gone from bro splits, one muscle group, just absolutely ironing out the chest, and then the next day you're gonna do back, and then maybe back and biceps. But what it is I say this to my clients. If your body was to say to you, okay, today you're waking up, today you're gonna leave your legs, but you're gonna take the rest of your body around and do all your daily tasks, it wouldn't be possible. The following day, leave your hands at home, take your legs. We are, in essence, whether or not we're performing a sport or in the Olympics, we are designed to be athletic. We are athletes. So in terms of that, in that sense, we need to train our full body, consistently, because we're utilizing all of these body parts. You don't necessarily need to isolate one specific area unless you are a bodybuilder unless there's that certain goal.
That's fair.
But for lifestyle and for all well-round health and balance and functionality, full body training is the way to go.
I think I used to do that with my old coach. Like we had we realized I was playing football once a week, golf twice a week. There was no way I could do anything more. So a 3-day full body split.
Yeah.
And it's what I felt was quite beneficial with that approach was I'm training my chest every day I'm in the gym.
Yeah.
So
You
and the
gain
good
that
part
frequency.
of it,
Yeah.
and the good part of it was that if I'm doing, let's say, a machine press right now, flat, the next time I go in,
Yeah.
my chest isn't stupidly tired where I can't push on the incline.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not stupidly tired the day after that when I do flies.
Yeah, which is why I'm able to consistently train and not burn out.
Yeah.
Obviously you're gonna recover.
Yeah.
You'd have your 1 or 2 recovery days if you are, depending on what your how many days a week. But if you're the average person and you're training 3 days a week, you can either split that out in a realistic day as a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday, and you're starting with maybe 2 or 3 compound movements for your target, and specifically like your lower body, like squats or deadlifts, and then you're moving into other aspects of accessory muscles, which I call like chest, biceps, back, shoulders, etc. And you're doing that, you're getting a good frequency throughout the week, and you're building an overall balanced physique. You're not going to be one of these guys who's got the Johnny Bravo legs and the big arms, or you're going to be small arms and bigger body. You're going to have a balanced physique, which I think is what appeals to the general public.
Do you train women?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So there are a number of girls I know in the gym
Yeah.
who train legs like 3 times a week. And I've never heard this before, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting told I'm doing glutes on one day,
Yeah.
quads on the next day,
Okay.
and then something else, lower body. And I'm like, bro, it's just lower body full stop.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a thing as well now.
Yeah.
3-day leg split.
Yeah, 3 days.
To target these 3 areas.
And that's obviously to increase hypertrophy, to grow. Most women want the perfect lower body.
Yep.
That's the thing now. So they're going for the hypertrophy effect. Not really focused too much on the upper body. All invested, all the money's going into the lower body. So I understand it from a hypertrophy perspective. But again, it's like if you were to challenge someone, like even a bodybuilder who was just training all upper body to train to do a sport or something athletic, how competent would they be? I like to be ready for any task.
Yeah.
So so it's each to their own. That is the trend. That is obviously the fitness trend. If you look on the gram or TikTok or whatever, it's all about how to grow your glutes 101, etc., whatnot. So I get it. I understand it. It does work, but is it healthy in the long run?
Yeah.
I'd say because they're targeting lower body. And you're targeting your legs, it is a very pivotal, muscle group and group of muscles to work for long-term health. For instance, like when you get into your 50s or 60s, likely that most people that suffer from a hip fracture die within a year of suffering that injury. So it's a good place to start, but hopefully ultimately they will go around to a more well-rounded approach.
Well, I was speaking to Nuno about it, and we were talking about like how I'm gonna get into like some sort of training program with him now where I'm focusing in more on golf. I don't want to be in a position where in 10, 15 years time, because I'm taking golf this seriously right now, I can't move the other way because my hips are messed up or I'm not flexible and stuff. So we've got something lined up.
Yeah.
And then I remember I listened to, are you a football fan?
Yeah, to an extent.
Fine.
Yeah.
So I listen to the Peter Crouch podcast every now and then.
Okay.
It's just pure shits and giggles. Shit. And he was talking about how his training when he was training, while he was playing, when he'd come across, I think it was like Sol Campbell or something. Sol Campbell had massive legs.
Yeah.
Peter Crouch has not got massive legs.
No, he doesn't. No.
But he could still play professional football.
Yeah.
And when you start, Nuno was bringing this to the forefront. He was like, if you look at some of these athletes right now, they don't push heavy. Some of them might. Like if you look at, let's say, Adama Traore for Wolves.
For Wolves, yeah.
He's massive.
Who allegedly doesn't do any weights.
Yeah.
Resistant bands.
But when you compare him to someone else, he might be quick, but someone else is possibly just as quick. And they're not even the same body shape.
Yeah.
And so there is, I think the key factor I'm trying to take away from that right now is don't try and be a hero to lift stupid weight if it's going to ruin your posture and what it is that you want to achieve. If you want to just be fit and healthy and you want to look good, you don't necessarily have to do what that person's doing over there.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know, and that's obviously we can kind of dip into the whole ego lifting
Yeah.
thing and all of that. You know what it is? It's like there's a like I said, balance. Balance is the first thing. You do need a certain element of mechanical functional strength.
Yeah.
So strength is still an important part of your routine, but you have to program it in a certain way. You know, and then obviously as you go across the strength curve, your body will react to your central nervous system, all of these things. So there's a period of recovery. So you can't just be, you know, peaking in terms of your lifts and progressively going up all the time. And then at some point, there's a certain capacity where naturally, mechanically, your body can't surpass that anymore.
Yeah.
There's a threshold. So, you know, you want to get certain strength lifts in, and the strength doesn't necessarily translate into muscular development. You know, the strength is a strength element, and then obviously repetitions and lighter weight, as bodybuilders will tell you, is more hypertrophic, which is where you actually develop muscles.
Yeah.
So it's getting that balance across and having a bit of a variety of everything. So that's why, you know, again, you know, talking about, you know, you said Cole, Sol Campbell.
Sol Campbell, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, their adaptations, the difference between him and Peter Crouch, they were still able to perform, but they performed in, number one, different positions, and they had a different role. So Sol Campbell was a defender, so he needed that power in his lower body to translate into holding off and, you know, and out muscling, you know, attackers, etc. Where Peter Crouch, you know, as tall as he is as well, you know, he needed to be lighter on his feet, quicker, in and out, darting in the spaces. He would usually, you know, score via headers from a corner. So that excess weight would have kind of held him back.
Yeah.
So it's all relative to depending on what your position is and what your, you know, your expectation.
So would you say then, like, I feel like I'm plateauing to a point where there's only so much more I can lift. So the $1 million question is, if I want to look anything like you right now,
Yeah.
Do I need to face the fact that it's not going to happen?
Well, you can be better than you are, and I'll tell you why. Because you constantly kind of have to find. Because there was periods of time when I was training, and you know, I was doing, for instance, things like bench press. You know, and my chest was trash. It was, for me, it wasn't a good chest development, because then I learned that bench press wasn't the best mechanical movement for the chest. Obviously, you know, the chest is all about horizontal adduction, so maximizing contractions. So it's all about understanding your body, understanding what works for you. One size doesn't fit all. If I just picked my routine and dumped it on you, it would still be relevant, but you would need to tweak it to fit what your capacity is, because over time your body has its physiological adaptations, and then you respond quicker to different things. Why I'm able to balance like a good amount of cardiovascular training and endurance training with, you know, weights, and still maintaining a sufficient amount of strength without, I'm not a power lifter, so I don't need to go any further. I'm happy with the plateaus, and I manage the repetitions based on, you know, how my body's feeling.
So like kind of what you said there, but you've also mentioned to me in the gym, you've got to see out the plan.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. So there's that caveat there, right? Because it's like, I'm doing my plan right now. They've not changed the exercises completely. It's pretty much the same. Just the rep range might change, or train to failure, blah, blah, blah. But can you say that right there? Feel like your chest right now, it's all horizontal. I'm not doing any flies.
Well, so, but the thing is, when you say see out the plan, they've given you something, right? If someone sold you a car, and there's a problem with the car, under warranty, they need to solve the problem. It's the same thing. They've given you this plan. They've swore by this plan. They say it's come from a reputable company. So, you know, you want to understand why that. I think they should also be accountable, because, you know, the trainer's there to keep you accountable. But also, if you're accountable and you follow everything to the T, then you need to understand, why didn't the plan go according to plan? You know, give me the answers, whether it's genetics, etc., whatnot. Why? And then obviously you have now the knowledge to know that, you know, okay, we didn't have these exercises, I'm not really necessarily happy with this. You paid for it, so you should be able to ask the question and ask the trainer, so why isn't this working?
That's it. I'm not here to like bitch about that. Like, I respect it, because I see other people training, and I know less is more, and I think I'm equipped enough to know how to train. I suppose the accountability aspect of how to enhance the workouts even more would be something better that I feel like online coaches should really try and tap into. My old online coach would tell me, Pri, I need you to send me videos of every workout you do, just one set,
Yeah.
so that I can constantly critique you. If I feel you've got more in the tank, I don't want you to come up to me next week doing the same number of reps.
100%.
If I can see your elbow starting to flare out, or you're not getting low enough, or for whatever reason right now, even if you're injured,
Yeah.
I still want to see what you're doing, because if we can monitor it, we can possibly look at those 1% improvements.
Yeah.
But I guess it's also what you pay for, right?
It's what you pay for, but then also going back to, I agree with your point, because what you said to me in terms of my training is the intensity. There needs to be a balance, and a lot of people are not necessarily honest with the intensity that they perform to. Some people just naturally don't like to work hard. I've got clients that, or I've had clients that just don't want to put in the work.
I'm that guy at times.
And sometimes, and comes into just that resilience. Like, you have to treat, your body like your job. It is your job. Nothing like, if you want that promotion at work, they're not just gonna hand it to you. You have to earn it, and you have to prove that you earn it. And it's the same thing, no different for your body. You have to put in the work. So that's like my ethos in terms of, I train hard. If you're an athlete, if you're performing a sport, you want to win. There's a difference between, a Cristiano Ronaldo and maybe say, a Conference League player. There's a different, obviously there's skill and everything else involved, but there's a work ethic that's required to get you to where you want to be. So some people just don't reach that boundary just because they're not just pushing as hard as they should.
I get it.
You need to be honest with themselves.
I get it. I'm not. If I'm being completely honest, and I probably speak for a number of people, I say to myself, I train hard, but there are times where I'll go and I'm like, let me just get this over and done with.
Yeah, and that's fair. But that's when I say there's a difference in terms of, the average person, and someone like me. I love training.
I love training too.
But I probably to the higher end. Like, one of my clients, he was like, Anthony, what's your vices? I train, I play sport, and I eat good food. But surely there must be other vices that you haven't. But it's what I enjoy to do. And obviously, if you enjoy something, you're able to dig into it deeper. You have more of a passion for it, but it's still a good thing. So you don't necessarily need to be all in. You can have partial, but then, like I said at the start, then you have to manage your expectations of the results that you want, because that's where it comes full circle.
I hear you, because when it comes to, like, you'll see me, I'm practicing my swing in the golf, in the gym.
Yeah.
There's a mirror in front of me. I'll lock my hands.
You love it,
and I'm just practicing. I love it. Like, you can tell me, go out there and go practice for a couple of hours before you go play, and I will.
Yeah.
I am on it to, like, try and improve, because I love the sport. When it comes to gym, I just feel like, and this, I think I speak for a number of people, it's, we want to look good, but we want to eat what we like too, and we want to continue our lifestyle. But there's that, how come they're doing the exact same as me, and I'm possibly working harder, I'm eating better, I'm weighing my food, but they look better. And then it's that negative comparison in regards to maybe genetics or
whatever, exactly, or maybe something else. But what it is like, that passion plays a part. But what helps sometimes, even for me, like the gym training it's a routine. It's very routine. It's very mundane. Sometimes you need to change it up. Sometimes you need to find what works. For me, it's like combat sports. So what gives me more of a buzz in the training that I'm doing is when I like to see the training that I do programmed to a way that translates to see improvements in the sport or the thing 100%. That I like to have fun doing. And if that works, then it gives you more enthusiasm to actually do the work and more motivation to do the work.
But like, you also train quite crazy as well in regards to how long you train for.
Yes. Yeah.
What's your normal training session?
My normal, so I probably, and I wouldn't recommend this for everyone, by the way, but my there's certain people they're gonna kill me for this. You'll probably get some comments, but no, there's a certain level of, like, number one, for me, training is different facets. Like, for me, it's mental as much as physical, and then there's the adaptation of where, because I'm going for performance in sport, I want to be ready at any time to perform at high level
Yeah.
capacity. And there's no stone unturned. So from mobility, I don't have any injuries. I haven't had any injuries. Touch wood.
Yeah.
It's
I'm with you
metal,
there. I'm
but
with
yeah,
you
touch wood. But yeah, and that is also a very important key fact, because more muscle, more responsibility. That's, you have a duty to
Yeah.
to not only just destroy yourself in the gym or however you do it, but you need to actually nurture and nourish so that you have the consistency to have the longevity to do what you're doing. But I can train for a long time. I have been noted to train for on average 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Longer than that.
That's on average, but I can train for like 4 hours, depending. There have been some 4 hour sessions that I've done, but that's because there's a method to the madness. Number one, most people they think of overtraining. Yeah, overtraining is arranged. That in that 4 hours, I've probably done mobility and warm up for a period of time. In that, I've probably done some kind of boxing, whether it's shadow boxing, some kind of conditioning, and then I'll finish off with maybe say a lower body, upper body split based
Isn't
on
that
that with
too
a
much,
variety
though?
of exercises. Your body has the ability to adapt physiologically to what you're doing if you program it the right way. Like for instance, I'm not going in the gym and I'm doing bodybuilding style training
Yeah.
for 4 hours, because your body just won't. Have you ever had a forearm pump where your forearms are so pumped, your biceps are gone, you can't actually do anything
Oh
else
yeah.
anymore?
When my chest
Yeah.
goes, I'm like, yeah.
Then
It's
there's no
point.
more to push. So I'm not necessarily maxing out on the weight. So on different days, I start the week differently. So on the Monday or the Sunday, I usually start my week on a Sunday. I will do all my heaviest lifts across Monday and Sunday, Monday, and then for the rest of the week, I progressively reduce the weight but increase the volume as the week ends. So it's almost inverse. So it's
Yeah.
lighter but more volume, and the start of the week is lower but heavier weight, and that way my body is able to adapt to that and recover. And I've been doing it for long enough. It works for me. Again,
fair.
you have to, there is a certain level of being in tune with your body. People talk about overtraining, overreaching. There are certain signs where if you're overreaching, if you're overtraining, like for instance, chronic fatigue, injury, low libido, low testosterone, you won't get the results that you want. Another reason why people don't like to train for a certain period of time also is because they avoid cardio. People talk ill of cardio.
That was me.
But that is a very key component for not only just like it helping you to shed body fat and get leaner, but also your cardiovascular health, which is a very important muscle for longevity and long-term health as well.
Yeah, I was avoiding that for time.
Yeah, so if you add that in along with mobility, which nobody does,
I'm trying to. It's long.
it kind of, it's kind of like a full course meal. No one's going to argue, right? And say, man, you've gone to the cinema for 3 hours. How can you sit in the cinema for 3 hours?
Yeah, but no one's going to the cinema every week.
Well, some people do. Some people, or they're going somewhere, I guarantee you, where they're sat down, on average. If you worked out the amount of hours people are sat down on average in a week versus how often they're upright in a gym doing something active, it's going to be a massive discrepancy between the two.
So quickly break it down for me then.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I'm going to be this person now.
Yeah.
In terms of mobility, cardiovascular activity, and strength training a day,
Yeah.
how much should I be doing of each? I'm not you, so I can't be doing your 4 hours. And you're going to look at it as the average person has got like a 9 to 5.
I'm going to live stream that once. Yeah.
What should I be doing? Break it down for me.
So listen, like the average person, like something. So I'd say mobility, like dynamic mobility, anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes of dynamic warm-ups, depending on what you're going to do. And then obviously from there, your core training session is 45 minutes to an hour, let's say.
Fine.
Yeah, that's if you're going for kind of like general full body kind of strength work. And then cardiovascular, they always say minimum 25 minutes, steady state incline walk or the stairmaster if your goal is to lose some body fat for the summer. And that is a good balanced approach.
So that's a good 2 hour workout.
Yeah, so 2 hours.
And if you haven't got 2 hours?
If you haven't got 2 hours, then
in the gym specifically.
well, some of my clients, I tell them to walk home. So yeah, so you can get your steps in anyway. You don't have to do the walking in the gym,
Fine.
but the mobility is important for, just pliability of muscles, injury prevention. So that's something I would never really miss.
Is that like yoga? Yoga exercises? Or are
Well,
you
if you're
talking-
doing yoga, yes, but I'm mainly meaning like things like I don't know if you've seen me with one of the Theraguns.
Yeah.
I do like a bit of quick, like myofascial kind of stuff,
Fun.
light tissue work, just to kind of warm up certain areas. And then obviously, if I'm doing like squats or some kind of mobility which requires my shoulders, I'll hit my lats, and then I'll do some just like resistance band work.
Fine.
Because everybody's got a shoulder injury.
Oh, mate,
Everybody's complaining about their shoulders, but no one. But you see them maybe for like 2 seconds, get the little handle, do the little,
and that's it.
and that's it, done. They're ready, and then they're like, my shoulder's gone.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Well, you see me do my Spider-Man walks up and down with those resistance bands every day.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, fair. All right, bro, we're going to finish off with one particular subject we haven't talked about, which is these shipfluencers.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw the this influencer. His name's I think it's Ashton Hall.
Okay.
He's going viral at the moment for being suspended in midair with this kind of like alpha male kind of influencer routine that you wake up at 3:40. I thought I woke up early, but the guy got out of bed at 3:48 in the morning. Got a bowl of ice water, dipped his face into the water. After that, I think he got picked up by a Bentley, was running, doing some sprints in Dubai, shaking some hands with fans.
Yeah.
Was back about 5 a.m. in the house. The sun was shining there, so it was crazy. But and then he was like suspended over a pool for like 4 minutes, and then dove into the water, and then starts his podcast with his online coaching platform, etc. And you know what? I get it. To effect, it worked. It's almost like the Jake Paul effect. We live in this society where when you can trigger an audience and get a response, if he can reach into even 5% of that for monetary value, he's going to add to the many millions that he's already earned. But I think it just sets the wrong precedent for the fitness industry, because this is where it kind of goes astray, because you've got a lot of people who look at that and they're thinking, I got into this industry to help people. I could have done many other things, but something for me that is actually fulfilling about helping people. And I think the more we go away from that, the less we actually do what we're set to do. Like I said, made reference earlier, doctors, etc. We are almost as important as doctors to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because you're the first point. From you want to kind of, even at this point, personal trainers and trainers, etc., who deal with people and average people or athletes, we are preventing them from even getting to the treatment room or the injury table to a certain extent. But when everyone's on, for clicks, for likes, or trying to get this kind of viral trend or this reel, and then obviously come and sign up to my, online coaching platform for X amounts for this. I know trainers, and I won't go to any details, but I know there are trainers out there who can't even practice what they preach. They don't live by the values they stand by, but they're claiming to help other people. But it's a catch-22, because they're still giving some good advice, but the execution and the morality isn't necessarily there. And I think that's where some people are put off, investing and asking for the help that they feel that they need.
This is what I tell every coach who speaks to me. He's like, Pri, how do I talk to me about your life coaching journey, etc. I'm like, have you got a coach right now? It's not me trying to sell to you, but have you got a coach right now?
Yeah.
No. I'm like, well, how do you expect someone to invest hundreds and thousands of pounds into you if you're not willing to do the same yourself?
100%.
I'm like, there's no one's going to believe how good you are if you're not doing the work yourself.
100%.
You're not perfect.
Yeah.
And you're trying to tell someone that they're not perfect.
Exactly.
But if you're not doing anything on you, does it make sense?
Exactly. I think it's important to be teachable. And for those shitfluencers or whatever they are, I think it's a thing of where I'm not knocking them. I just think that they should also get the help that they need in order, because they're onto something. Sometimes they could be in the right place for the wrong reasons.
Well, a lot of people do it because of viralness as well, right? You go viral, offers like many opportunities. Like I've seen a bunch of YouTube videos where, like, say, like these Gymshark athletes have done like food challenges against like the biggest
Yeah.
athletes and stuff like that. They eat like
It's all
stupid
to
number.
trigger. It's all for the numbers.
clickbait.
You lose the value of what it is, and you actually, you lose credibility.
Yeah.
In a lot of people's eyes, because the thing is, even though there's hundreds of millions of views on social media, there's still a massive percentage of people that are not clocked in.
Yeah.
There's still a huge untap, and for that reason, they'll look at that and be like, let me find my way out. And I know, it's growing even more. So I think it's a good thing. It has a good reach, and there's people out there who need help. For me, like I'm fortunate to be able to help people in other countries, which is refreshing for me, because it's a case of where these are people who have less access to the things that we have over here. So I think we need to kind of keep that integrity, and make your bread, but learn something, actually be teachable, instill yourself with the right values, and you will grow even more than you can even expect.
Oh, for sure, man. No, I think you're right. I listened to, like, say, James Smith.
Yeah.
He's very funny, but like the way he like dismisses like certain brands and certain people in regards to their training styles, it's like he kind of dumbs it down for every general person.
For real.
I do feel like there's some elements of what he says is a bit like, all right, James, like I feel like this is more clickbaity versus anything else.
Yeah.
But I understand the concept he's trying to teach. And I used to follow like Athlete X and Simeon Panda and follow all these workouts and thinking it's not really working.
You know what? It's like what's happened is because some of these guys, who are not natty, and I think that's where we're fortunate now, because we're in a period of where fake natties get exposed real quick.
Yeah.
So now there's more actual natty, people who take steroids who are very open and transparent, and I actually respect that. So at least that their viewers know that, okay, this is how they got, and this is why, but these are the health complications that could arise. The choice is yours. I always believe that you should give people the choice, but just be transparent. And then there's other trainers who tend to kind of like, mask it and overcomplicate things. And I don't think fitness is as complicated as it is. And I think they try to overcomplicate it to give themselves more value, because they feel that insecure within themselves to ask for the money that they're asking.
That's true. And
so
I know, first and foremost, if I ever want to look anything like you, one, I have to possibly sacrifice a lot more of my standard daily routine. I'm probably going to have to eat stupidly clean and cut out a lot of other things, because I know you do that anyway. I'm probably going to have to change my approach to training. I might have to stop golf. And
well, no, you wouldn't have to stop golf at all. But what I would say is, it's a case of where you find things that happy. Like a short piece about in terms of like my nutrition is, I love food. I've always loved food.
Yeah.
I've always naturally been able to eat and get bigger, in one way or another. COVID, training went down. I went up to like 104 kilos.
Jeez.
And
send me that COVID photo so we can put that in here as well. It's what I used to look like.
But what it is like, I've eaten all of these things so many times, it doesn't stimulate me anymore.
Fine,
like, how many pizzas am I gonna eat?
Yeah,
how many
every now and then.
And I could do, but the thing is, I took it out, and I've given myself like a massive sense of self-control, where I'm able to eat a burger, have a pizza, and then the next day it's nothing.
But that's what
some people
kind
of spiral, and they'll have it the next day, and then the next day, and then maybe their partner will be like, you fancy takeaway on Wednesday, because they're too tired to cook. You need to kind of create an environment where you're able to create a sustainable routine.
This is what I feel like
success.
Fitness coaches in this space, because they're so able and they have the knowledge from a training standpoint and a nutrition standpoint. I think one thing that's possibly missing, I'm not sure, I think you do it anyway, but it's that emotional mindset challenge. And if you can bring that into it as well, let people eat what they want to eat.
Yeah, and that comes back into reprogramming.
Yeah.
I always think that with nutrition, like, it shouldn't be torture.
Yeah.
I never tell any of my clients, you're going to have broccoli and tuna and sardines or whatever, like, or eggs. Like, if you don't like it, how do we find things? I make you go to the supermarket.
Yeah.
You do the research, because there's a lot of like things that are, improve taste, etc., whatnot, where you can, feel comfortable, feel like you're living, within your Monday to Friday, and then Saturday is your reprieve. Like, Sometimes I do like carb cycling, etc., where I would just keep low carb and I focus on the emphasis on protein, and then every 2 weeks or week I'll spike my carbs. I'll have more sweet potato, or I'll have more chips,
Yeah.
or I'll just have pasta, whatever. But then the next day I know I'm back down, because sometimes we can't defeat what's within us, which is like the cravings, etc.
Yeah.
And that's where people kind of go wrong.
Fair.
Like I had a client who he recently went on a cleanse, one of these cleanse to Turkey,
Yeah.
where they're on like water and juices and no foods, etc. It was like a fast, and he's lost a significant amount of weight. The first day he comes back, he gets a kebab. Yeah, and that's fine. But now, because he's done that, his stomach has shrunk, so his appetite has gone down.
Yeah.
But he needs to sustain, having a right balanced diet with right portions. Otherwise, he could go overboard. So it's really
I think
tricky.
that was me as well.
And that's the psychological challenge, because the reality is people overhaul. We are emotionally triggered, and most of us eat for emotional reasons.
Yep.
Stress, emotion. Elated, more food. Some people eat more or they eat less. It triggers, and both sides of the spectrum.
I hear it. But bro, this has been sick.
Yes.
Where can everyone reach out to you if they want to get in touch or work with you?
Get at me at Fitpaq _ on Instagram. Also, you can find me on TikTok as Fitpaq. And I'll leave, a link for an email in the description below, and then just get in touch. And I'm happy to help anyone and everyone.
Love, man. Thank
Peace
you
out.
very much. This has been sick. I think we could
Definitely
carry
come
on.
back when
But for sure, bro.
Yeah,
Thank you very much
definitely.
for coming through.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Love, my guy.
All good.
Thank you lot for listening to another episode of the Unfiltered podcast. If you've liked what you listened today, drop us a like. If you've got any comments in regards to what we spoke about, if there's something you disagreed with, or there's stuff that you did agree with, drop us a comment. And lastly, if you haven't subscribed yet, give us a subscribe. Whether you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple, or if you're watching this on YouTube, every subscribe goes a long way. And look, why wouldn't you subscribe? If you like the unfiltered nature of the podcast, surely you want to be in tune to whenever the next episode is coming out, right? Anywho, I'll catch you on the next episode of the Unfiltered podcast. It's been your boy Pri, and I'm signing out. Peace.